This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
The time is precisely 6:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Dulmin Samarasinghe and read by Chandima Virakon. Headlines. Funeral of the Most Venerable Kotugada Dhammawasa Thero takes place with full state honours in Colombo. The Ministry of Education issues guidelines to reopen schools in the Western Province. Minister Prasanna Ranatunga says that the Easter Sunday attack took place based on a religious agenda. All intelligence units under the police department activated. The national program to cultivate abandoned paddy fields commenced. In foreign news, European Union leaders are to discuss boosting COVID-19 vaccine supplies. In sports news, Olympic torch relay finally begins in Japan. Local stories in detail. The funeral of the Mahanayaka of Sri Lanka Amarapura Mahanikaya Aggamaha Pandita Most Venerable Kotugada Dhammawasa Thero is now being held at Independence Square in Colombo with full state honours. The Mahasangha belonging to 3 chapters are attending the funeral ceremony. His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, Islam and Hindu clergy are taking part in the religious funeral ceremony. Parliamentarians led by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, foreign diplomats including Indian High Commissioner Gopal Bagle, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, former President Maithripala Sirisena and former Speaker Karu Jayasuriya are also attending the funeral ceremony. Most Venerable Kotugada Dhammawasa Nayaka Thero passed away at the age of 88. He was conferred with the Aggamaha Pandita title by the Myanmar government on 2nd March 2007. Venerable Kotugada Dhammawasa is credited with the distinction of having delivered sermons over national radio for many years. His sermons have also been widely attended by audiences in overseas. Venerable Kotugada Dhammawasa had also been a prolific author, having published more than 36 books on various subjects related to Buddhism since the 1960s. The Ministry of Education has issued a special circular containing the guidelines to reopen schools in the Western Province on Monday. Secretary to Education Ministry Professor Kapila Perera has said all government schools and government-approved private schools in Western Province will commence academic activities from Monday. However, if a certain area is isolated due to coronavirus risks, schools in the relevant area will remain closed temporarily until the isolation status is lifted. Tomorrow to Sunday have been assigned for preparing schools to reopen in accordance with the health and safety protocols. The guidelines stressed that schools will be reopened giving priority to adapting students to the school environment and activities to improve their mental health. Hence, it is not appropriate to direct students to exams and competitions as soon as schools reopen. Academic activities of the first term of schools are expected to conclude on the 9th of April and the second term will commence on the 19th of April. Academic and non-academic staff members are required to report for duty as usual. Minister Prasanna Ranatunga says that the Easter Sunday attack took place based on a religious agenda. He pointed out that Muslim leaders directed the Muslim youth towards such an attack. Although there were complaints on 333 occasions, Good Governance government could not control it. Therefore, Minister Prasanna Ranatunga said in Parliament today that the Good Governance government should accept the responsibility of the attack. He was speaking at the launch of the adjournment debate on the report of the Presidential Commission that inquired into the Easter Sunday attack. He said even by setting up a separate organisation, those who are linked to the attack should be found. MP Charita Herath said that the country needs a new political culture together with a new constitution. He said that the Easter Sunday attack can be identified as religious extremism turning into terrorism. MP Anura Priyadarshana Yapa said that although a small group of the Muslim community was connected to it, the previous government could not prevent it. MP SM Marika said that the mastermind of the attack should be found. State Minister Dayasri Jayasekara said that the attack took place due to the establishment of Islam extremism in the country. Parliamentarian ALM Ataullah said that powers that are trying to grab resources in the country are creating conflicts among the communities. All intelligence units under the police department have been activated. Accordingly, all intelligence units deployed to get information on crimes including drugs, terrorism, black money, underworld and computer crimes have been strengthened. A senior police officer told SLBC that intelligence units have been paralyzed during the time of the Good Governance government. He said even payments to informants have not been made properly during that time. Police have also paid attention to increased payments to private intelligence services. The national program to cultivate 28,000 abandoned paddy fields has commenced. Minister Mahindananda Alutgamage launched the program this morning at Pahuru Oya area of Dompe Agrarian Service Area. The Ministry of Agriculture implements the program covering 320 agrarian service centres. Minister Alutgamage said the program will add another 35,000 metric tons of paddy to the Yalla season harvest. The farmers can obtain an interest-free loan of 25,000 rupees for an acre of paddy. The government provides fertilizer, technology and machines free of charge. 22,000 acres of abandoned paddy fields will be cultivated in the second phase and 50,000 acres of abandoned paddy fields will be cultivated in the third phase. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
The Speed Investment Plan from Sri Lanka Insurance. Give a high five to life.
Continuing with the local stories, State Minister Nalaka Godahewa told Parliament today that the Arcade Independence Square was leased out to Soft Logic Holdings for a period of 10 years after following due to tender procedures. He said the Board of Directors of the Urban Development Authority decided to lease out this building as it was running at a loss. He said it was leased out after following the stringent tender procedure where notices calling for bidders were published in the newspapers by a procurement committee appointed by the Cabinet. State Minister Nalaka Godahewa said this while responding to a question raised by JP leader Anurukumara Dissanayaka, who urged the government to reveal the lease agreement. Former Chief Minister S.M. Ranjit says that Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna has not suggested to abolish provincial councils. He said that a group of people, including him, opposed when the Good Governance government postponed provincial council elections. During a media briefing today, he said Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa gave leadership to that move. Former provincial councillor Trevin Fernando said that party leaders would take measures to conduct the election soon after making necessary amendments to hold the provincial council election. Former provincial councillor Aruna Gunaratna said that the government is implementing a massive development program in the country. The Navy had taken 5 Indian fishing vessels along with 54 Indian nationals into custody for poaching illegally in the Sri Lankan waters. The seized vessel had a steel hull and possessed an engine capable of harvesting a huge fish stock with its motorized trawls. Meanwhile, 1,030 kilograms of illegally caught fish and fishing gear were also held by the Navy. Responding today to the apprehension of Indian fishermen in Sri Lankan waters, the Indian High Commission has reiterated that issues associated with Indian fishermen should be dealt in a humanitarian manner. A spokesman for the High Commission said it had been informed about the incident by Sri Lanka Navy last night. The German government has extended financial assistance worth 8 million euros for the implementation of a 7-year project titled Supporting Vilpattu National Park and Influencing Zone Management in Sri Lanka. The project, commissioned by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, is being successfully implemented with the cooperation of the Wildlife Conservation Ministry and the Wildlife Conservation Department. The Wildlife Conservation Department staff in Kalpitia and Vilpattu is to undergo training for the long-term surveillance of marine resources. Tourism services providers will be trained on responsible dolphin and whale watching tourism. The Urban Development Authority has taken steps to develop Katharagama town under 19 projects. It is expected that this will lead to economic and physical development of Katharagama town and its environments. The project will be implemented as a 10-year development plan. To end the local news, the headlines again. Funeral of the Most Venerable Kottugoda Dhamma Vasatero takes place with full state honours in Colombo. The Ministry of Education issues guidelines to reopen schools in the Western Province. Minister Prasanna Ranatunga says that the Easter Sunday attack took place based on a religious agenda. All intelligence units under the police department activated. The national program to cultivate abandoned paddy fields commenced. That ends local news.
Introducing Speed Investment with Sri Lanka Insurance, the only insurance policy that increases your sum assured by 5% every year for the same premium amount. You also get a bonus payment at maturity. What better plan to have when you can invest now and relax later? The Speed Investment Plan from Sri Lanka Insurance. Give a high five to life. Sri Lanka Insurance. Like a father, like a mother.
A mother knows the pain of each member of the family. Siddhalepa, the trusted relief for aches and pains.
An effective therapy for relief from cold, sneezing, flu, headaches, swelling due to toothaches, rheumatic, discomforts, and muscular aches and pains. Siddhalepa, the Veda Mahatmya in every home.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Veda Mahatmya.
On the main news story, the Ministry of Health says that another 251 patients have recovered from coronavirus and discharged from hospitals and treatment centres. This brings the total number of COVID-19 recoveries in the country to 87,881. A total of 2,583 infected patients are currently under medical care at hospitals and treatment centres. The total of COVID-19 cases reported in the country so far has increased to 91,018, while the death toll stands at 554. That ends the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Veda Mahatmya.
Brush your teeth twice a day for healthy teeth and gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, your trusted brands in oral care for many years.
Supiriviki Ayurvedic toothpaste for adults. Kakulu Ayurvedic toothpaste for kids. 9 Ayurvedic ingredients of Supiriviki will protect your teeth and strengthen your gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, products from Siddhalepa.
Moving on to Watchlight, a system in collaboration with private hotels and resorts has been set in place for the free-of-charge quarantine facilities needed for the expeditious repatriation of migrant workers stranded abroad due to the COVID-19 pandemic. 10 private sector tourist hotels and resorts have been selected with the approval of the National Operations Centre for Prevention of COVID-19 Outbreak for the establishment of such quarantine centres. Charges for the hotels, food and all related facilities will be handled by the Foreign Employment Bureau. That ends Watchlight.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
From the first step you take till the time we meet, the trusted leader prioritizes you always. All you need under one roof. People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
Headlines of the world news. European Union leaders are to discuss boosting COVID-19 vaccine supplies. The US coronavirus cases surpass 30 million. Suez Canal suspends traffic while efforts to dislodge ship continues. EU leaders are told to hold virtual talks to discuss ways of boosting COVID vaccine supplies and improving the rollout of doses across the 27-nation bloc. The European Commission will today ask leaders to support plans for added controls on vaccine exports, which could affect supply to the UK. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson earlier warned against imposing blockades. The virtual summit comes as a third wave of coronavirus infections sweep across much of mainland Europe. Johns Hopkins University says the total number of confirmed coronavirus cases in the United States since the start of the pandemic surpassed 30 million yesterday. There are fears of a fourth wave of infections in the country as many states move to ease restrictions. The number of daily new cases in the U.S. has declined since the peak in early January, when about 300,000 infections were reported. The Suez Canal Authority said today it had suspended traffic temporarily while 8 tugs worked to free a giant container ship stranded in the southern stretch of the canal for 2 days. The authority said 13 ships had sailed south along the canal yesterday and were waiting in lakes until the container ship Evergreen is released. To end the world news, the headlines again. European Union leaders are to discuss boosting COVID-19 vaccine supplies. The US coronavirus cases surpass 30 million. Suez Canal suspends traffic while efforts to dislodge ship continues. That ends World News.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
From the first step you take till the time we meet, the trusted leader prioritizes you always. All you need under one roof. People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
Development News is brought to you by Nivea along with CIB. Valuable gift vouchers for every bill payment and 20% discount for bank card holders during 16th to 30th March. Our product, our place. CIB.
On to development news. Irrigation Minister Chamal Rajapaksa said government has initiated a program to clean 103 rivers and strengthen the banks of tanks in the country. The minister said he would visit Anuradhapura 31st of this month to commence the construction work of the lower Malwatu Oya Reservoir. That ends development news.
Development News was brought to you by Nivea along with CIB. Valuable gift vouchers for every bill payment and 20% discount for bank card holders during 16th to 30th March. Our product, our place. CIB.
On sports news, it's Olympics. A year later than planned and despite an ongoing global pandemic, the torch relay for the delayed Tokyo Olympics finally got underway in Japan today. The 121-day relay signals the start of the build-up to this summer's games, which were postponed from 2020 by coronavirus. The torch was lit during a ceremony in Fukushima and will be carried by 10,000 runners across Japan before the lighting of the Olympic cauldron at the Games opening ceremony on 23rd July. Thousands of people have lined the streets for the event in previous years, but because of the virus restrictions, spectators were banned from this year's launch ceremony. A small number of fans were allowed to watch the relay's second section, but face masks were compulsory and cheering banned in an attempt to stop the spread of COVID-19. That ends sports news.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
On business news, one of Sri Lanka's leading tile and bathware manufacturers, Rossell, recently opened a fully fledged concept store in the city of Galle, showcasing its wide range of tiles and bathware lineup, making way for a holistic experience in creating beautiful living spaces. Located on WDS Abegunavardhana Mawatha, Pettigalavatta, Galle, the new concept store allows walk-in customers to experience Rossell's aesthetic masterpieces. That ends business news.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Economic news, courtesy of
Hello, Puta. Did you land already?
We're in transit and our flight got delayed.
How is Shani? Poor thing with her pregnancy.
Calm down, everything is sorted. Why, I have my LOLC World Card with me. We are at the VIP lounge.
LOLC Finance Credit Cards. Fuel the goodness in you.
On economic news, headline inflation as measured by the year-on-year change in the National Consumer Price Index increased to 4.2% in February 2021 from 3.7% in January 2021. This was mainly driven by the monthly increase in prices of items in the food category. Accordingly, food inflation year-on-year increased to 6.9% in February 2021 from 5.9% in January 2021. Further, non-food inflation year-on-year increased marginally to 1.9% in February 2021 from 1.8% in January 2021. That ends economic news.
Congratulations on your promotion. It will be our treat, huh?
How about today?
Oh no, I was just joking.
It's fine. I have my LOLC credit card with me. Let's go out today.
Introducing LOLC Finance Credit Cards. Fuel the goodness in you.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces NanaSir, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And finally, on the weather report, the Met Department says showers or thundershowers will occur in the eastern, Uber and southern provinces, and fairly heavy falls above 75 millimeters can be expected at some places in these areas. Showers or thundershowers will occur at several places in the Sabragamur, western, northwestern and central provinces during the evening or at night, and fairly heavy falls above 50 millimeters can be expected at some places in the above areas. That ends the weather report.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces NanaSir, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And to conclude this bulletin of news, the headlines again. Funeral of the Most Venerable Kotukada Dhammawasa Thero takes place with full state honours in Colombo. The Ministry of Education issues guidelines to reopen schools in the Western Province. Minister Prasanna Ranatunga says that the Easter Sunday attack took place based on a religious agenda. All intelligence units under the Police Department activated. The national program to cultivate abandoned paddy fields commenced. In news overseas, European Union leaders are to discuss boosting COVID-19 vaccine supplies. In sports, Olympic torch relay finally begins in Japan. With that, we conclude this bulletin of news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Over to my friend and colleague Sound Dithavam to keep you entertained.